And welcome, football fans, to the post-game show. I am not Chris Ramirez. I am Andrew Mild, and joining me is Mike Dewan. Mike, another week in the books, and I know we sound like broken records, but this was a really exciting week in the region.
No, we've seen a lot of blowouts kind of in weeks past, but this was a week where we have plenty to talk about, especially our 3 games on the Region Sports Network. But outside of that as well, a lot of close contests, and it's what makes, again, a typical Friday night so great, and we're happy to kind of break it down for you.
Well, we had 2 overtime games on the Region Sports Network tonight. The first one
Talk about a treat, man.
was, the Hobart Brickies were hosting Andrean, and Andrean was down, they were trailing. It was a good defensive matchup the first half, but then Andrean had the lead. They scored a defensive touchdown, fumble in the end zone. Hobart ties it, and then they win it in overtime.
It's looking at, and I mean, these are 2 teams. This is a huge game, the NCC.
It is.
And these 2 teams always play each other so close. We look at last year's game that was played at Andrean. It was a fourth quarter comeback orchestrated by Hobart. I want to say the final was this exact score, 27-24, and obviously that didn't require a fifth period of extra football. But I remember I was at that game, and that Hobart comeback was huge. But these are 2 teams that play each other close every single night, and we saw that again tonight. Again, Andrean, a team that their record could look a lot different if they were able to close out some of these games. We take it all the way back to week 2 against Valparaiso, up 21-0 in the first half. Then you go to this, obviously a late fourth quarter lead. You have all the momentum on your side, and things just slip away. But credit to Hobart, Eric Schreiber Jr. especially, 3 straight wins for them, and a big top 10 win for its big implications again in the NCC.
Well, I was going to put Hobart at 3-2 in the year and 3-0 in conference play.
That's all that matters.
To open it up, that's all that matters. You're right. And then the other game that was also on the Region Sports Network tonight, another overtime game with the Philly Special.
Crazy.
Of all plays to run to win the game, the Valpo Vikings escape by the skin of their teeth against the Chesterton Trojans, who are out there starting quarterback.
Right. I mean, first off, credit to whoever had that play call. They had a lot of practice there. Obviously,
was Nick Foles in Valpo tonight?
I don't know, but whoever had the call there, that takes a lot of cojones and a lot of a lot of everything over there. Again, obviously going for the win, getting out of there quick, and Philly. I mean, a lot has to go right for that play. Two proper handoffs, and you have to have a guy that throws the football that never typically throws the football. And the quarterback caught the pass, of course. Again, that's not something they typically do. A lot of practice going into that, and obviously in the overtime period, which you never really want to be in. You want to, of course, finish the game in regulation, but you have to practice those plays, and kudos to Bill Marshall and his staff and getting everybody ready for periods like that, because overtime it's kind of a different ball game, and you got to find some 2-point plays. But for Chesterton, I did not expect this. I thought if there was one game of our 3-game slate tonight that might be more of kind of what we've seen in these first few weeks, maybe some wide margin, we could say that. I'd say it was this one. Again, out there starting quarterback Brady McCormick, who tore his ACL the last game. I found out, again, I heard surgery went well for him, so definitely it's a big blessing to see that he's doing well. I know he's a big-time baseball player, too, so hopefully he's back in time for the season, but that's a big blow in your first full game without your quarterback. I got to give much kudos to Chesterton to go into Valparaiso. Not an easy place to play against a Valparaiso team that's been playing great football as of late. To win that, to barely lose that game, I just one play off of a trick play. Got to give much respect to the Trojans, but Valparaiso, they just find ways to do it, whether it's by close, slim margin, by a wide margin. They find a way to do it, no matter who's out there.
I called their games the last 2 weeks. I called the LaPorte game where they were still riding high from that comeback win against Andrean, like you mentioned. They're down 21-0 before an electric return on a kickoff.
Right.
And then they blew out LaPorte, and then they were in a really good dogfight with Michigan City. We'll be talking about them later. And the Valpo Vikings, you're right. Bill Marshall, head coach, is doing an excellent job.
Just finds a way.
And finds a way to win. And, of course, now you've won 4 games in a row, and you're 3-0 in conference, staying up with Crown Point.
Yeah, and you got to get ready for next week, too. Speaking of Crown Point, that's going to be a fun matchup next week with those 2. Again, Valparaiso coming into this year, again, this was a team that was, the defense especially, very young, very inexperienced. Bill Marshall said it himself. A lot of guys need to step up, and a lot of pieces, specifically from that 2022 state championship team, no longer with the program. So some guys got to grow up, and Valparaiso, they're showing that so far.
We're going on to our next game, which I know you were happy to hear this score. The Munster Mustangs.
Yes, sir.
Finally on the board. They were hosting East Chicago Central tonight. They took them to the woodshed. 47-0 was the final there.
Yeah, good for the Stangs over there on Columbia Avenue. More importantly, a big win for Ramos in St. Louis, his first as the Munster head football coach. Good to finally get on the board again for East Chicago. This is still a program. I keep saying this kind of with a bunch of teams, but East Chicago is still trying to find their identity. They've been a solid football program, but with some new coaching turnover, again, you got to get the players on the field. It's tough. There's hills and valleys to this rebuild, and it's a long season. Again, you got to shake it off of East Chicago, but big time to get that kind of that weight off your shoulders for Coach St. Louis that had a rough 4-game stretch start the season, but big time for Munster and East Chicago. Again, it's just a rebuild. It's a rebuild. It's not going to be sunshine and rainbows. There's some tough games, and it's a long season. Like I'm saying, you're not going to play 5A opponents every time. Munster, they might not be the typical 5A opponent that is dominant like that, but still, nonetheless, East Chicago, they're going to be playing some teams a little bit smaller in size coming up, and again, hopefully, just builds the culture come the future.
Yeah, that's going to give Munster a 1-4 record on the year, and as we said, it was not pretty. Coach St. Louis coming over after 2 years at Elkhart, finally getting Munster on the board with some points, winning a game, and maybe that's going to give them some momentum and something they can get really excited about. Because I'm telling you what, it was so much fun to watch the Munster players on the sidelines celebrating just even a point.
Yeah,
and it goes a long way. We can also win and then wear your jersey with pride going into the next week.
Sure, and as brutal as it is, we Chris and I talked about it on Region Football Weekly, but there's sometimes when you're in situations like that where points are tough to come by.
Yep.
The culture, unfortunately, there's been times where, as an athlete, a former athlete, you're part of that sometimes where the in front of you looks bleak and the culture and everything, it takes a bit of a nosedive. It's tough. You see what's in front of you and it's like, okay, this game may not go well. This next game may not go well at all. And, getting a win like that, again, it builds your confidence back up, but it more importantly builds your love for the game back up. And that's what you need for these players. Again, both teams that are, you're trying to get players on the field to make some plays and just build the culture back for both these programs.
Let me ask you this, Mike. Are you more of an offensive or defensive guy?
Defense.
Well, you have not enjoyed the Culver Hammond Central game.
That's for sure.
41-34 was the final in win for Culver Military Academy. They're 4-1.
Yeah.
And that was a slobber knocker of a game in the sense of the word. You can look at the stats and knew it was going to be an offensive game. You didn't know how it was going to go. Hammond Central had a chance to win it, but Culver just pulled it out of their hats at the end.
Talk about a roller coaster. 10-0 after the first quarter. Culver in front, then Hammond Central came storming back. Halftime lead of 28-17. This definitely, again, I know Culver is a pretty solid team, but Hammond Central, game they want to close out. It was their first home game of the season after 4 straight on the road. Being at home, that's sure nice, but that's a tough pill to swallow. But yeah, definitely take the over in that one. Looks like a lot of offensive points. Hammond Central still a very solid team, a lot of good guys over there. But Culver, 4-1. I did not really know much about that, but good to see how they're playing right now. Obviously coming up here to Hammond, that's a big time win against Hammond, a 5A school. Still a growing program, still kind of in its infant stages a little bit, but nonetheless a good game over there. Slobber knocker, like you said.
Yeah, Culver came in at 3-1. They were averaging 36 points a game.
There you go.
Allowing 29.3 points per game. And then for Hammond Central, of course, they have Davion Terry, who has been just incredible this year from the backfield. Finally get an opportunity, and he's been running with it. Sure,
yeah. He's, again, I got to give a shout-out to my former coach, Jason Grunwald, who's now at Hammond Central. He told me coming into the year, one of the best players you've never heard of is Davion Terry, and sure enough, he's second going into this week on the leaderboard and rushing yards on those peak performers. Much respect for what they're doing over there. We know they like to run the football, and obviously they're doing it quite well. A game, of course, they probably want back, but nonetheless, Hammond Central, again, I'm always interested to see what they're doing because they're still, again, a young program. They're only, I think 4 or 5 years in.
I think this is their 4th year. I think the first year was 21. So right after COVID. The next game we're moving on to is number 6, Griffith, and this game was really close. They went to River Forest, and they were down 25-14 at the half. They ended up winning 34-31 to stay undefeated this season. So all Griffith has done through this first kind of part of the season is dominate, and we kind of talked about this game going into it, that it might have been the biggest test going into this game for the Griffith Panthers. Now, again, they played the aforementioned Hammond Central team that arguably given them their toughest competition up to this point, but going to River Forest, that's not easy to do, and then let alone be down 25-14 at halftime. All they've done was get up 35 points and put on a running clock, and they'd probably score some more points after the fact, and to come back from that deficit against a River Forest team that's very, very solid at River Forest. Yeah. That's not easy to do. Griffith 5-0 for the first time since 06, keeping up that. They were 4-0 for the first time since 06. A lot of people are asking if Griffith is back.
Who knows? But after that, that's a big time win. They're showing us they can now learn how to win close, and that's a skill you must have. You could beat teams by however many, and yeah, you might outmatch that opponent. But if you play a close opponent like River Forest, you got to learn how to make the proper plays when they mean ever so much more later in the game.
And I bet you that if you were to sit down with first-year head coach for Griffith, Phil Mason, he would tell you that this win is more important than the 4 wins he had before that, where they were just blowing out teams. And even River Forest, they were blowing out teams.
Sure.
They outscored their opponents 111-24 going into this one, and they probably thought they had it locked in. And then Griffith showed, hey, can't count us out.
No.
At any time of the game, no matter if we're trailing or if we're winning by a lot, we know how to put away games, and that's what we're talking about with Valpo, being able to have that X factor at the end of any close game.
Griffith, I mean, I know they could put points on the board in a hurry, and they kind of did that. I want to say late in the game they had a chance to win, and obviously they did just that late in the fourth quarter. Again, still, they were trailing at the start of the fourth. That is not easy to do. A team that, again, we have to figure out if they know how to win, and they've done that in dominant fashion, but to do that, again, in these close fashions like they did tonight, big kudos to Phil Mason and the rest of his boys.
Number 2. Hanover Central was on the road there at Kankakee Valley. And you said it, this game was a lot closer than you thought it was going to be, with Hanover Central winning by 2 touchdowns, 34-20.
Yeah, I guess that's the standard of Hanover football now. Now that they're in the NCC and seeing what they did last year, they would usually beat teams by 3, maybe a running clock at some point. I mean, this has been a dominant football program, but again, this is also a team that is very proven, and they know they could win games close. We saw that a little bit last year. Obviously, this is a new Hanover Central team, but KV is still no slouch. This is a team that, has gotten off to a pretty rough start as the NCC has begun, but going into this, I mean, they started out 2-0. They got a great rushing attack with Marco Castro, the leading rusher in the area, but Hanover Central, they're just so well-rounded. They got, a great transfer quarterback in Tommy Bonner, who set a school record last week in touchdown passes in a game. I mean, they could do it all, and they could also run the football. Besides the arm of Tommy Bonner, Caden Verrett is a star. He's arguably probably the best running back, I'd say, in the area. He could really just about do it all. And, I mean, they're for real. Again, they know a skill to have. Again, looking at, especially at this week with how close these games are, is a team that could win the close ones. Do the things right when the plays matter even so much more, and when it's 3-4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, you had yourself a really good game last week against Lowell when you need 2 hands to count how many passing touchdowns you had.
Yeah,
Bonner, you said he had 6 passing touchdowns.
School record.
School record where they won 48-21. You said Verrett, he's been a monster. And then Marco Castro, he had a good game, but they were able to at least slow him down just to get past. And Hanover Central goes to 4-1, and they are 3-0 in conference play. Kankakee still looking for their first win in conference play. Then you had a battle in the DAC between the Port Slicers and the Lake Central Indians. Lake Central walks out 24-12. That's a win for them.
Another closer game, though. I mean, I saw the halftime score, and LaPorte was up 12-10, and that was a little alarming with Lake Central, who was playing at home. I mean, I looked this up at Maryville, the game I was at tonight, and LaPorte, I mean, that's an hour-plus bus ride to Lake Central, and to come out arguably a little bit the flatter team, I'd say Lake Central, a little bit alarming. I don't know what was in that halftime speech, maybe from Pete Koulianos and the rest of his coaching staff, but it worked. 14-0 in the second half. Lake Central escapes that one. Who knows what maybe have happened in that game, but they got the win. LaPorte, I know, again, I think they're dealing with some injuries as well, potentially at the quarterback position from what I heard, or some other spots, and still a young team, a younger coach, again, that is still trying to find their footing and to get on, the winning column. But a close one there at the burial grounds, I'd say, with Lake Central. Obviously, just kind of escapes that one, but definitely a surprise with me on that one.
Yeah, I called the LaPorte game a few weeks ago when they were at Valpo, and it's a team that I feel like they're still trying to find their offensive identity.
Yeah.
Do they want to throw? Do they want to run? They have some really good weapons like Reed Raymond and Keegan Hinkle, who I really enjoyed. He returned the kickoff against New Prairie when they opened up the season with a loss. But for me, I still think that they have some young pieces that are going to develop, and I think LaPorte's on the upcomeuppance. I think they're going to be a very good football team in the future.
I hope so. It seems like it's been a little bit since LaPorte has been kind of on the forefront, especially in a conference that is very kind of top-heavy right now with your typical 3 suspects. But when LaPorte's doing well, and they have some great programs in the past, and the culture's obviously there for LaPorte, things are well with region football. And again, like you said, I definitely agree with on the upswing, getting a new guy in there at head coach, Austin Epple, who was stripped his interim title after last season. hoping things go right for LaPorte. But again, it's just kind of different stages of the rebuild. Some seasons are better than others, but the end goal is hopefully to eventually keep it at a new standard. And it, just another one slips away.
And LC gets the win. They go to 3-2 and 2-1 in conference play after they opened up with a win against Portage, and then they lost to Crown Point. But who isn't these days? The Lowell Red Devils were in Highland, and this one was not close. The Red Devils get back to what we know for them to be, a defensive-minded team. They only allowed 7 points in a 41-7 win.
Yeah, big win for Lowell. Again, a team that's looking to kind of be on the come-up a little bit, kind of fallen back in the NCC as of years past, which is something you could rarely say about Lowell, kind of taking a backseat in the conference. And again, a win like this kind of sets them up, hopefully, rebuild some confidence, because it's been maybe a tough stretch for Lowell to start the year, but a big one like that for sure.
Yeah, I was surprised to look, because someone that graduated from Crown Point, I'm used to Crown Point and Lowell starting off the season against one another. Mm-hmm. They allowed 132 points in their first 4 games, which is shocking, because for Lowell, they want to ground and pound you the whole time, whether it be on the offensive side or the defensive side. They're looking to wear you down, and to see that many points allowed by the Red Devils was really a shocker to me, and I think everyone else in the region.
Right, and if you give up that many points, especially with that offense that we know is, again, they're gonna pound the rock, they're gonna outman you. You can't fall behind that much on the scoreboard, which obviously they didn't do tonight. But if you do in that case, you can only run the football so much before the time runs out. You don't have that aerial attack like some teams do in the area. They're gonna stick to what they're good at, and that's running the football. And tonight they did just that. We'll see how they go from here.
The Lowell Red Devils will go to 2-3 on the year, 1-1 in conference. Highland to 1-4, and then we have our Better Beef of Indiana meat of the matter. Mike Dolan was in Maryville for a top 10 matchup between two teams in DAC, Michigan City, and Maryville, and the Pirates just escaped with a 2-point win. Mike, how did Maryville escape with this win against a very scrappy Wolves team?
Yeah, it was quite the game, to say the least. It was kind of all Maryville in the first half, although 14-0 is not a typical, that's not a dominant fashion of a first half. Maryville's defense was very, very stout, and they made plays on the offensive side. The rushing game was very solid in the first half, specifically J.Q. Johnson and Cam Jordan, I like a lot, as well as J.Q. Johnson. But those are two fantastic running backs they got over there at Maryville. Both scored a touchdown in the first half. That said, in the second half, things went a little different. Maryville, again, their first drive of the third quarter, a drive where they could really kind of put the game away. It was a 3-and-out by a Michigan City defense that also played their tail off tonight. They got a lot of great guys over there, and another close loss for them. But looking at kind of the deciding factor of this game, I mean, Maryville, there were a lot of times where the offense couldn't get things going in the second half. That Michigan City defense is for real, and it put them in positions where Maryville, the defense, had to make a couple stops. And although, yes, they gave up 2 touchdowns to short fields, what the Maryville defense didn't do is allow any sustained drives or anything from Michigan City. On their 2 touchdowns in the second half, both were off fumbles, both one each by Jordan and J.Q. Johnson. That set them up at the 50-yard line. So City didn't have to do that typical 80-yard drive, whatever that may be. They had to cut that almost in half. Pretty easy scores for them. But Maryville, again, when the time really came down to it and they really needed to make a stop, they bent, but they did not break.
The one thing I'm noticing about Michigan City after calling their game last week against Valpo, where they just lost by 1 possession, they're a second-half team. But if they can come out of the gate swinging like they do in the second half, they're going to start winning some games, because Trenton Hart struggled in the first half against Valpo. Looks like he did the same today against Maryville. But in the second half, they come out, had some good drives against Valpo, just couldn't finish them. Seems like it's the same case tonight against Maryville. Got some opportunities. Sure. But if they knock down their extra points, who knows? Maybe you're still in Maryville right now.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Again, this was a game where obviously it was, Michigan City scored, and then, their ensuing PAT was blocked or maybe just left short. That resulted in them, once they scored again, had to go for 2, didn't convert. And special teams, of course, you can't give Maryville any extra chances with that defense as well. But I really like Michigan City going forward. We already know how real that defense is. A senior-led group, but this is an offense that still needs to tie some pieces together. A junior quarterback, first year under center, Tristan Hart, who I was still pretty impressed with, hanging in there against the Maryville defense, as well as some wide receivers that are, again, they have their top 4 wide receivers are non-seniors. So it's when you got guys outside that you're going to build chemistry with through the rest of this season and next season for Tristan Hart, they'll be okay.
We also got to enjoy these last 5 games of Adrian Holly before he goes
He's
to
unreal.
Kansas. I know.
That was the first time I got a chance to watch him, and he's he was out there on the field very early. I mean, I was just he was one of the guys I kind of had spotlighted on, see kind of how he goes about things. But he was fantastic. He was a name I kept calling all night. But he was out on the field early, just kind of doing his pregame routine. One of the only guys out there for City. But he's obviously, just next level talent, as you see, offers that next level frame, and he's playing two ways. He's playing D line. I noticed, when he goes off to the sideline, he rips off the jersey and he's got to put on his lineman jersey, number 55, because he plays right tackle as well. So he's barely leaving the field. The kid has a high motor. It's hard to even call him a kid. 6'6". I saw he's got a 4.6 40. That's a man. That's a dude.
I saw him play basketball for Michigan City,
right.
And I was thinking to myself, I want to see this guy play football. I was lucky enough to see him play football. For Maryville, when I was looking at their stats, it really looks like they play a really good defense. They have a lot of upperclassmen, a lot of seniors and juniors.
Sure.
Who tonight stood out for them and stepped up at the big moments for them to get the win?
I like Adam Camphor, another kind of interior D lineman, number 99 of Maryville. Trent Nixon's also a great piece of theirs, Northern Illinois commit. But Adam Camphor, he's a game wrecker there. I kept saying that all over the broadcast, but it's true. It's how you define him. He's over 300 pounds, but he's quick. He clogs the lane, obviously, with that frame, but he also... It's tough to really get around him. Yeah. He's got a long reach. He's twitchy. He's quick, and he caused absolute fits to that interior offensive line. So there's a lot of guys on that Maryville team. The defensive backfield did a great job as well, containing that potent Michigan City passing game. But I think it starts with Adam Camphor, big 99. RSN all area last year. I want to say he made all state, if not all conference. Going to go to Southeast Missouri State this time next year. Definitely, I'd say the heartbeat of that defense.
So once again, Maryville winning that one 14-12. Maryville goes to 4-1 on the year, 2-1 in conference play. Michigan City to 1-4. They go to 1-2 in the DAC. Justin, this will be the time to cover your ears. Our producer, the Calumet Warriors, were hosting Morton, and it was ugly, 52-0.
Yeah. Well, first off, good for Morton. This was a team that was, again, 0-4 going into this game. A lot of talent on that Morton squad, to say the least. And we were just kind of waiting to see when would they put it all together for 4 quarters. They did just that, and now Calumet, they're playing up in this game. Again, they're at home, but this is, again, a team going through a new head coach, still, I think, in his second or third season, Coach Charles Salary of Calumet. They got some pieces over there, but Morton, again, they're playing up. That's a 5A team. Morton, a lot of next-level talent. Finally put it together for 4 quarters. Again, that's big for them to get their first win of the season. I'd like to say Morton, looking at them going forward, they got a lot of conference opponents in that small conference of 3, as well as some more local opponents who they might have some more success with. Calumet, again, we just got to see how they respond here. Again, they're playing up, getting ready for a little bit more of the GSSC kind of once their division play rolls around.
52-0. It was 35-0 at halftime. So also you're giving your starters some rest, allow some bench players to get in, get some reps in, and build towards playing these big games down the stretch and see if Morton can walk away with a conference championship this year. But again, as you're saying, Cal, it may be a loss for them, but it's a learning experience at the same time.
Always, you got to look at in some of these games. Again, you either win or you learn, and you got to kind of bounce back from that, whatever side you're on. But Morton, especially, you mentioned kind of building up stuff for the future. It also builds up confidence. 0-4 start, especially with the expectations of this team. Now, granted, that might be all outside noise, but be 0-4 and then get that big weight off your shoulders. Big for those playmakers over there. We'll see what they do going forward.
Well, over at Crown Point, the number 1 ranked team in the Region Sports Network was hosting Portage, and once again, Crown Point just taking care of business, 58-20. They are 5-0 and 3-0 in conference play. Who can stop Crown Point at this point?
No, man, I don't know. I almost want to kind of just move on at this rate. This is. It seems like every time we're here, man, it's just it's the same thing every week. They really get out to you in the first half, specifically those starters just do not. They haven't played. I don't know if they played a full half really quite yet.
See, this is why I was shocked when I saw that Noah Ehrlich was leading the region in passing,
and he plays probably. He's played probably 2 games.
Yeah,
through 4 entire games. He's efficient. He's obviously next level going to Miami, Ohio. They also have a great rushing attack that benefits his passing game with Larry Ellison, who's broke the school record last year in his first year at the running back position. They got it all out there. Trevor Gibbs might be the best player, at least a junior, best junior in the area. I could simply say that. I mean, he does it all. H-back. He's one of the leading receivers in the area. They got it all. I mean, it's tough to find who's going to hang with them. We'll see next week when we start getting into maybe the next week matchups. But if that eventual opponent doesn't hang with them, we may have to look at a team down in Circle City before we get to any team up here in the region.
So Crown Point continues to dominate in this part of the state, trying to get back to the state finals. And you got to think that that's in the back of their head. Like, we got to get there and we got to win it.
I mean, I kind of want to ask you. I mean, you're a Crown Point guy. Obviously, of course, you want to see them do well, but also we're part of the media, so we want to, keep level-headed, of course.
Yes.
But I mean, the floor for them at this rate. I mean, I initially said probably regional championship, at least playing. I think.
Yeah.
They're the sectional favorites, I like to say, and that now Penn's in their sectional, but they're going through a little bit of, a lot of new pieces over there, as well as a new head coach that takes out Lafayette Jefferson, to my knowledge, and then they got Lake Central and Portage, two teams that they, again, running clock by the first half, and then you got to worry about Penn. I think regional championship, winning one, might be the floor, and I don't know where you stand on that.
Yeah, it's great that, because I came through the feeder system. I played junior Bulldogs football. I was around some incredible talent. I never understood why Crown Point never woke up. And finally, they made one coaching change, and the Sleeping Giant came up. They got Ehrlich over from Hobart,
sure.
And I finally got to see him play in the state championship. And it's just the footwork. He doesn't panic. He knows that mental alarm is going off, so he knows when to go. And I have to agree, though. But I know that they're striving for an even higher bar.
For sure.
Because you play at Lucas Oil Stadium for the first time, you want to get back there. And if they win a regional championship and lose, I'll tell you what, something like Bulldogs fans will not be happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be like, they could have done a lot more. And I think that when you get that far and you fall one game short and you bring back a lot of those players,
sure,
they're thinking about that every time they step on the football field, that I need to get better so then we don't fall short again. Because there's nothing like going those 9 yards, seeing the goal line, and then watching the other team go past you and walking away with that.
It's true.
Ring.
You get the blue ring instead of the red one or whatever, and it makes a world of difference. Again, we were fortunate enough to be there for the ring ceremony, and asking some of those guys. I mean, Noah Ehrlich specifically. I mean, his answer kind of stuck out to me, but it's. The ceremony was I wouldn't say it was bittersweet. I'd say it was more bitter. I mean, he's a competitor. Yes. Of course, it's great, the whole team and all the memories and what this has done for the community. But he wants a first place ring.
Yes,
he wants the big. I mean, just as everybody does. I mean, Coach Bazia as well. He's out there and said it. I bet nobody wants this more than him. But his players, they see that as well, and it's again, they're clicking on all cylinders, to say the least. Again, there's literally not much more you could say other than, I mean, this team might be better than last year's team. And it's really hard to believe, losing guys like Will Clark, Jeff Meshity, Paul Clark, Landon Delich. I mean, there's so many other guys that built the foundation of that program. But this team is they're the real deal.
Yeah, I know he knows it's the real deal. When I tell Chris Ramirez the score, and he's been around a long time, and he goes, "Wow." He's seen a lot of football, and Crown Point still surprising him every week.
No kidding.
What does this mean for Portage? I know we talked a lot about Crown Point, but Portage, they're going in the right direction. I feel they were 2-2 going to this game. They haven't won a conference game yet. It's a tough loss, but again, you said it perfectly. You win or you learn, and it has to be a learning experience when you're just playing a team like Crown Point that's been so dominant the last 3 years.
Again, they're playing a classmate, too, in the 6A. There's only 3 6A schools up here, Lake Central, Crown Point, and Portage, and you're playing a classmate. You're playing a potential future playoff opponent, and again, maybe things may not get to the Crown Point level for Portage this year, but when you play the best in the area, you're, okay, this is what it takes. Roy Richards, again, a coach that I fortunately got to meet for the first time this year, and he is a player's coach. He is somebody I'm like, I want to play for you. Watching him do his thing, he's just an energetic dude, a guy you want to be around, and it's building the Portage program. Again, this was a winless team last year, and they've hung in games. Obviously, there's a couple close ones, and tonight might not have been, the most fun of games for Portage, but I still like them going forward. This is a tough stretch of their schedule. They played Maryville last week, now play Crown Point. Not an easy gauntlet to go through. I'm expecting big things for them kind of as the season winds down. Maybe the middle to lower tier teams of the Duneland, they'll kind of round their season out with that and could eventually kind of string together, hopefully, some Duneland wins for Roy Richards and his guys.
We have 2 more games to report before we wrap it up here on this Week 5 Friday night. Gary Westside took care of business in Whiting, Final there was 54-12. Wow.
Yeah, big win for Westside. It was a team that kind of got skunked by River Forest last week, a team that was ranked in our top 10 poll. Westside was, and after seeing that, it was, are they, again, what happened?
Yeah.
I mean, we know River Forest was pretty solid, but that was kind of a little shocking on that. And then Westside obviously going to Whiting, not an easy place to play. We know Westside could run the football. I'd imagine they did just that tonight. They got a great quarterback in Giuseppe Moore, who is one of the top leading rushers in the area, as he's great with his arm, but he is even more dynamic with his legs. Big win for Westside, obviously a program that always seems to be on the positive trajectory. Just got to keep stacking up wins. And again, the GSSC, the division play, I want to say that's starting up pretty soon for these guys, especially with that bigger side of the division over there. I think it's in the south side. So
Westside goes to 4-1 on the year, Whiting to 2-3. One more game. Number 7 Wheeler went to Boone Grove, and they won 38-20. Wheeler goes to 3-2. Boone Grove drops to 2-3.
Wheeler 3 straight wins. A team that's 7th, like you said, in our top 10. I like Wheeler a lot. I saw them the previous 2 weeks, and I really like Caleb Klimzak, their quarterback, who is very solid with his arm, but he's got some great weapons on the outside as well. And Nick Testa's he's done a great job over there, the reigning GSSC Coach of the Year. He's obviously doing that for a reason. And this is the time when Wheeler kind of turns it up. Again, they started their season 0-3 last year, won 6 straight games en route to a division championship. A big win against Boone Grove once again, who's still a very talented team, playing at a stadium at Boone Grove, that's a beautiful stadium from what I see, what they got going on over there now. I know Boone Grove I don't know if they're working through some quarterback controversy. I know Mark Rowland's a great quarterback of theirs, but I know a freshman, Kenny Sacco is his name, that started the previous few games or something. I don't know if Rowland's hurt or whatever, but that is something to look out for coming to next week. But Wheeler gets the win there. A team that is, again, now 3 wins in a row. They're looking to kind of circle the wagons once again, because this is when they really heat up.
And maybe get bumped up in the Region Sports Network top 10 going
the
next week.
Top 6-1, top 7-1, right? Griffith, big comeback. Oh, Andrean, that's going to be interesting. But Andrean, I don't know. It's going to be fun list next week. We could say that. But again, a lot of great games, like we said. Yeah.
So that's all the scores that we have. We talked about some really good football games. Really exciting to check up on all the scores. I know you were, especially in the exciting game you had. You were still seeing these scores, going, "Wow, the region did not miss tonight."
No, sir. A lot of great games. Before we head out, I got to give special thanks to all the crews tonight.
Yes.
Specifically, again, first off, that big game at Hobart, which was, again, one of the games that did not miss tonight. First, got to start off. Zach Sanelli was our producer. Bob Guerrero was our cameraman. Leo Stardiker was our play-by-play, and Doug Ashenball was the color guy. I got to give a shout-out, of course, to Mike Black and the Hobart Athletic Department for letting us do what we do. Always a pleasure going over there to the Brickyard. Chesterton and Valparaiso, another just unbelievable game on the Region Sports Network. Philly. I mean, that play we're going to be watching probably all next week. We got the electrifying plays. That's going to be in there. I will tell you that right now as the guy who makes it. Expect that in there, because that was crazy.
I will say one thing. They were wearing the right colors for this, but they were not with the right nickname. They need to change their name to the Eagles after that for one game.
I wonder what they called the play, but I got to give a shout-out for that Valparaiso squad as well. Joey Heinrich, Scott Stessel was our cameraman. Joey was our producer. The great Michael Bradner and Doug Nelson were our play-by-play and color guys. And I got to give a shout-out, of course, Stacy Adams and Don Clark, 2 guys that I'm always in contact with at Valparaiso High School. Again, another just awesome place to call games, a place that we've kind of called home for these previous kind of few seasons. I've done a lot of games up there, and always a great show, as we saw once again tonight. And finally, our third game, Michigan City and Maryville, a top 10 matchup, defensive slugfest. Like we said, a great crew up there. Clint Klaus was our producer, and joining me on the call was Quincy Bell. Kid did a great job. Both those guys did fantastic, and Amy Beckham and all of the Maryville Athletic Department. We can't thank you all enough. But another week in the books, like you said, but this was especially a fun one, to say the least.
I know you had a lot of words to say there, a lot of thank yous to pass around, but do you have any final thoughts before we sign off on this Week 5 Friday?
I do want to promote one more thing. We've been doing a series. We kind of talked about it not too long ago, probably on the pregame. We did talk about it on the pregame show, but beating the Brickies, paying homage to, of course, the Hobart Brickie kind of the domination they've went on in the 80s, the late 70s, early 90s. But more so talking about the teams that slayed the giant during that time. It's a series of 8 articles. We released our introduction not too long ago, wrote by the great Chris Ramirez. Then we also released the first story, Lake Central, that team from 1986. You can go check that out. And we got a story coming out tomorrow morning. The Griffith team, A Bone to be Chewed is what the story is called. I believe that was a Griffith team that beat Hobart. I want to say, I don't have my years correct, but that was written by Brian Waddle. RSN contributor, a team in the early 90s. I wish I knew what team that was, but I know it was like a high-stakes game, really kind of bumped up the Russ Radke kind of era of Griffith football. We talked about Griffith being back. Griffith was on the forefront in the first place with that win in that series. Again, that's going to be continuing tomorrow, and we got plenty of stories coming up in the near future.
So not only is Region Sports Network capturing history as it happens, but also reliving history and making sure that the region football stays intact as years go along. Well, that's going to do it here on the Region Sports Network here on this post-game show. Don't forget that the Strachan Van Til hometown scoreboard will be running for the rest of the night into tomorrow. If you missed any scores, we are looking for 2 scores to be reported to us. Bowman Academy in Lake Station. Both teams were 0-4, didn't get any score on that, or neither for Calumet Christian and Bishop Knoll. So don't forget to message us, send it right over so we can make sure that goes on the Strachan Van Til hometown scoreboard.
I got to give a couple more shout-outs, too, before we go. But Chris Ramirez, our executive producer as well, operations manager, Rich Castillo, our coordinating producers today, Justin Cole, as well as Zach Miller. 2 guys in the studio, as well as our Skibbs, our scoreboard operator, as well, doing always a great job here. Always a good dude to have around the studio. And again, for you also for coming in, also doing the studio shows. Yeah. I haven't seen you in a while, so it's good to bring you in here. And football, man, it's always brings people together and always again, putting on these shows, having a good time.
Yeah, last time we were together, it was snowing outside, so I'm really appreciative of how warm it was.
Basketball season, right? Just like that, around the corner.
Right around the corner.
Before you know it, 5 weeks in, crazy to say.
Well, week 6, hopefully is just as exciting as week 5. As that's going to wrap it up for my partner, Mike DeWan. I've been Andrew Mild. We'll see you next week for more football on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
When life takes you places and you can't get to the store, shop online with Strachan Van Til To Go. Our to-go service is easy to use, and it can save you time and money. Once your order is in, our own Strachan Van Til team preps your order with care. For delivery or pickup, enjoy the convenience of letting our to-go team shop for you. Enjoy your special moments. Sign up online today at shop.strachanvantil.com.
We love home internet from T-Mobile. Oh, now Mesh boosts Wi-Fi all over your home. Taking a class in your attic, that dead spot is gone. Stream ballet in your man cave, learn to paint on your lawn.
He's glorious.
And now on the road, you can take T-Mobile Wi-Fi with you. Hey, stay connected and watch what you'll do.
Hi, I'm Crowd Company's Lantern Man. For years, I've helped your family and friends save on their car insurance. And now I've returned to rescue you from high prices. Whether you have a perfect driving record or a not-so-perfect record. Follow me to the Crowd Agency for immediate and affordable coverage. I'm your insurance superhero. Crowd Company's insurance professionals. Highland, Merrillville, and Michigan City.
Thinking about what to do after high school? Consider a career with Boilermakers Local 374. As a Boilermaker apprentice, you'll earn while you learn. We offer excellent wages and benefits, and as part of our no-cost hands-on apprenticeship program, you'll learn from the best in state-of-the-art training centers and on the job. Become a union Boilermaker and get on your way to a great career. Find out more, visit www.local374.org or call 219-845-1000.
Can't wait for summer, but dreading the heat because your old AC let you down? Don't sweat it out this summer. Call Economy Electric Heating and Cooling. The professionals there can fix you up. Install a central air unit that'll last for years. Your family deserves to stay comfortable. And with a 24/7 emergency service, comfort is just a phone call away. Give them a call at 219-923-4441 or check them out on the web at 4ajobdoneright.com.
Save for a healthy tomorrow with an HSA checking account from Tech Credit Union. It's a tax-advantaged way to save and pay for healthcare expenses. You'll enjoy no setup fee, no annual fee, and easy access to funds. Plus, you'll earn a better-than-competitive dividend rate, currently at 2.27% APY. Visit techcu.org, contact any branch, or call 800-276-8324 to learn more. Tech Credit Union is federally insured by the NCUA. Rates may change without notice.
Have you checked out Send Your Bank's student checking account? This no-fee checking account is perfect for students and teens ages 14 to 24 and comes with all the features you need to succeed, such as a debit card, digital banking, and automatic deposit. Send Your Bank can help you start establishing good spending habits today for your better tomorrow. For more information, visit sendtier.com/student-checking or visit your local branch. If you are under the age of 18, your parent or guardian must also sign on the Send Tier student checking account. At the age of 25, your account will automatically convert to the Send Tier checking account. You must deposit $25 to open this account. This account is not eligible for overdraft advantage. Member FDIC.
Four Seasons Mechanical proudly serves Northwest Indiana, providing quality, reasonably priced, reliable service. With a quality and comfort guarantee, the professionals at Four Seasons Mechanical offer a wide range of services in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Whether it's residential or commercial, Four Seasons Mechanical is there 24/7. To find out more, the website is fourseasonsmechanical.com or give them a call at 219-756-7020. Four Seasons Mechanical, your indoor air quality specialist.
Earn while you learn from the best hands in the business. The Bricklayers Allied Craft Workers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. That's right, this is a paid apprenticeship.
I'm getting an education while learning a trade and getting paid for it.
The thing that surprised me the most about this apprenticeship program is the respect I have received after the proper time and training.
Classes start soon, so apply now. There are training centers throughout Indiana and Kentucky. We are the Bricklayers and Allied Craft Workers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. The best hands in the business.
Flip the switch, a light turns on. Press the button, machines and instruments come to life. Touch the screen, communicate with the world. Simple tasks, guaranteed results, every second of every day. That's the power of power. And that's the power brought to you by the NECA contractors and electrical workers of Local 531.
Blythe's Team Sports in Valparaiso is a leader in athletics apparel and equipment sales. With in-house production including screen printing, trophies, embroidery, and more, Blythe's can help you to create the perfect look. For more information, visit them online at teamblythes.com. Blythe's Team Sports in Valparaiso, where the athletes shop.
If you work with industrial, pneumatics, or hydraulics, and you're in need of maintenance or repair, you need the right connection. For over 20 years, Hose Connections in Hammond has been the premier leader in the hydraulics industry. Hose Connections is a one-stop shop for sales and service of pneumatics and hydraulics. Hose Connections continues to grow their network of industry contacts, which allows them to meet even your toughest expectations. To learn more, visit HoseConnectionsInc.com. Hose Connections in Hammond. Proven under pressure.
Better Beef of Indiana. Hormone-free, locally raised, and locally processed beef. Better Beef of Indiana is located in Valpo at 2600 Beach Street, where you could buy individual cuts of beef completely raised in Hebron. From single pounds of ground beef to filet mignon, Better Beef of Indiana has it all. Visit their website at betterbeefindiana.com. Follow them on Facebook or call the owner, Kevin, directly at 219-508-5797. Better Beef of Indiana, where quality meets value.